say that last night we had some great fights, and I haven't seen a lot of good fights like that in one card in a long time. And I believe that Turkey Al-Sheikh, I believe that's his name, he's doing a great job. From Saudi Arabia, His Excellency, they keep calling him that. I feel like he's making boxing a better sport because he has the resources, and I believe he's doing what America's not being able to do, or they could do, but they refuse to do it. They're not putting the money in boxing like the way he is, and I believe he's making the best possible fights, and he wants to make the Canelo versus Crawford fight. He did say it, and he says that he's going to offer him the money. He didn't say the amount, but he said if he refuses, that's up to him, but he's going to basically make the fights that he wants happen, because a lot of boxers are not going to want to refuse the amount of money that he's going to offer them. So he basically hinted that, in the interview, they interviewed his name is Turkey Al-Sheikh. They interviewed him, and they asked him, do you think that the Crawford fight and Canelo fight could be made? And he said, well, it's up to him if he wants to refuse the offer that I give him. But he basically was hinting that he's not going to be able to refuse the offer. That's what he was saying. He was insinuating. And I feel like the fight with Valenzuela, when he fought Pitbull Cruz, I underestimated Valenzuela. I should have known that Cruz was going to have trouble with the angles. I didn't think he was really good at using angles like that. The way he showed in his last fight, he was able to keep him at a distance, throw the jab, and keep Pitbull Cruz at bay. And he pretty much dominated and won every fight. He got hit a couple of times, but nothing major by Pitbull Cruz. And I believe that that he fought really good with angles, and he threw the jab. He kept him at distance, and I feel like that Pitbull Cruz is like more one-dimensional. He's a great power puncher, but he's one-dimensional. He doesn't have a lot other attributes to his game. But that was a good fight. But the fight that I really enjoyed was the Gerard Anderson heavyweight fight. That really impressed me. The fighter, Bokemi, I think it was Bokemi, that was his name. And he was a guy from Africa, and the guy had 20 wins, 1 loss, and 15 KOs before he fought Gerard Anderson. I feel like that fight, I knew that he was going to bring something to the table, because everybody was saying that he's been avoided. That fighter from Bokemi, I think that's his name. Somebody correct me, give me the name of whoever's tuning in. But that fighter has been knocking everybody out. He only has 1 loss to Hunter, and he wants a rematch. But I think that guy became a key player. Bokemi, the African fighter that knocked out Gerard Anderson. Somebody correct me with the name. If anybody knows his name, correct me. That fighter has gotten himself in the sweepstakes to fight any of the fighters, Usyk or Tyson Fury. I think that he's a key player in the division, and he's gonna give problems to a lot of people because he has that one-punch KO. And I know it's not about the knockouts only, but I feel like the way you set it up is what makes you more effective. And I just believe that the way Gerard Anderson boxed, his chin was never, I'm not going to say he don't have a chin, because anybody can go down from a powerful punch like that, but I just believe that he gets hit too much on the chin. And if you're a boxer that moves and relies on boxing, and you try to knock people out, you should always keep your chin tucked, or at least, move your head and box, bob and weave. Like, with a boxer that has that much power, you have to use more than just, boxing and throwing a jab. You have to move your head too. You have to bob and weave, and I feel like that he failed in that area. What's up? What's up? Your hard-earned tax dollars. What's good? What's good? What's good? Yeah, so I believe that Gerard Anderson, he has to go back to the drawing board, and Turkey Al-Sheikh is gonna still see how far he can go. Just because you lost one time, it doesn't mean that you don't have a future. But the way he lost to Bokemi, the African guy, I think his name is Bokemi, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. The way he lost to him, that's a embarrassing loss, because He was supposed to be the next heavyweight champion of the United States, Jerron Anderson, and I feel like, what do you say? Hell no? Well, I believe that he was supposed to be, based on promotion. But I knew there was some chinks in his armor, and I knew that he wasn't going to last long by not bobbing and weaving. You have to bob and weave, and you can't just have boxing skills and not bob and weave. Like, you have boxing skills, but part of the boxing skills is bobbing and weaving. You have to have a tight defense too. And I believe Muhammad Ali was great at that. Like, he wasn't the most powerful power hitter, but he was able to like set you up like he did with Foreman, the rope-a-dope. Like, he was able to master that style of boxing where the fighter that has power goes to you, and he made him wear himself out, and he made George Foreman lose energy and stamina, and he got hit to the body, Muhammad Ali, but he was able to mentally deal with the way he was going to fight him. He set him up, and eventually he used all the energy that George Foreman was throwing at him to get him tired, and he let him fight him on the ropes, and then eventually he did a rope-a-dope. Yeah, I don't think he's pound for pound. I don't think Jerron Anderson was ever pound for pound. He was just a prospect, and I just totally believe that there was a lot of chinks in his armor. Like, there was a lot of deficiencies in his game. You know, I knew he had boxing skills, but boxing skills is not just jabbing and moving your legs, but also bobbing and weaving. And he took too many chances. And a boxer that he has too much pride. Jerron Anderson has a lot of pride. Nah, you crazy. Berlanga has no chance with Canelo. I hope that Berlanga wins and beats Canelo, but I don't think Berlanga even has a chance with Canelo. Kings of swing. I disagree, but I respect your opinion. He's too small. Got hurt by that. No, I think that. All right, I'm going to talk about Terence Crawford's performance. I think Terence Crawford, that fight with Terence Crawford and Madrimov was a high-tech boxing, high IQ boxing fight. A person that appreciates boxing skills and strategies and making the other guy pay for any mistakes would appreciate a fight like that. I think that the guy had a pedigree. Madrimov had more than 300 fights in the amateurs. So just because he had 10 fights, 1 draw and 7 KOs, that doesn't mean that he didn't belong in the ring with Crawford. He had a lot of experience, and he learned a lot in the amateurs. And for him to have 300 fights in the amateurs, he already has a high pedigree. So that's why they rush fighters like that when they only had 10 fights or 2 fights, like the way Crawford said in the post-fight commentators. He was right about that, because he had a very competitive boxing match, but the guy came there to win, and I believe Crawford beat him and hurt him a couple of times to the body. If you look at that fight, if Crawford would have landed more to the body, he probably could have stopped it, because every time he hit him in the body, he was hurting Madrimov. But Madrimov made a good account of himself, and I believe a lot of people that think that Madrimov won is getting misled by anything that people said, like trainers or the promoter Eddie Hearns, because he's banking on his fighter to win, because that's his fighter, Madrimov. So he was banking on him to beat Crawford, but he knows in his heart that he didn't win that fight. It was a close fight, but he did not win that fight. It was a very good competitive fight where I think Crawford edged him, at least beat him by 3 rounds or 2 rounds. It was a competitive boxing match. He made a good account of himself, Madrimov, and he'll be back. But he is his promoter. Eddie Hearns is going to say anything that makes his fighter look real good, so he can get a rematch, or he can build some traction off that fight. Madrimov landed more power shots. It's not only power shots; it's also jabs, uppercut. There's a lot of different things that factor in. I just believe that the way the fight was going. The fight was like, if you make any mistake, if Crawford makes a mistake, or if Madrimov makes a mistake, they will pay the price. And maybe like one time, Crawford, he got hit maybe 2 times when he made a slightly, mistake, but it wasn't like a major mistake. But I think Crawford actually hurt Madrimov a couple of times, because when you see Madrimov get hit to the body, and Crawford started throwing more combinations, Madrimov was holding, so you know he was hurt. He definitely was affected by the body shot. I just feel like Buck Crawford, if he would have, went a little, like actually go a little bit more, throw a little bit more combinations and raise his combinations and throw more body shots, he probably would have stopped him. If he would have threw more body shots and more combinations, but he was very respectful of Madrimov's skill and the way he feints, because Madrimov was good at feinting. He would have got dropped. If that guy had more power, he would have gotten dropped. That's hypothetical. Anything is possible in boxing, but I feel like when you're fighting a fighter with that pedigree, with that much fights in the amateurs, like over 300 fights Madrimov had in the amateurs in Uzbekistan, I feel like those kind of fighters that have that kind of pedigree, they have a lot of skills and they're very prepared for technical fights. And he wasn't one-dimensional. He was very versatile. He had footwork, he had speed, he had power. He has power. It's just that Crawford's not going to let you use that power against him with that. He's not going to let you. They gave him credit, for being a very strong guy, the trainer of Crawford and Crawford himself. But yeah, what up, Kings of Swing? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Tune into my channel. Subscribe to my channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, but I feel like he had a very technically sound and skillful, experienced boxer in Madrimov. As far as the amateurs, you learn a lot in the amateurs. I know the professionals is different than the amateurs. Maybe if he would have had more experience, he would probably do better against Crawford. But I just believe that Crawford's on another level, and I think Crawford, considering he moved up in weight and he has never fought in that weight class, and he fought somebody with that much pedigree but still beat him, it just basically says a lot about Crawford. Crawford is nothing to play with. He still has a lot left. He just fought a very skillful fighter, from Uzbekistan, who had 300 fights in the amateur. So you can't disregard that experience that he encountered as nothing. He does have pedigree, and it makes a difference when you have that many fights in the amateur. You're like really seasoned to be in the pros. You know you learn a lot of tricks in the amateurs, and there's some habits that you learn in the amateurs that in the pros you can't do. But at the same time, I believe that he had a lot of pedigree and he had a lot of skills, because he knew exactly how to react whenever Crawford would try to set him up. He wouldn't fall for Crawford's setup, and vice versa. It was the same thing. Crawford was he was thinking, Madrimov was thinking that Crawford was going to fall into his game of going and throwing a lot of combinations and catching him with a counter, and Crawford didn't do that. He was very selective and very calculative with the way he throws combinations and counters. That's Crawford I'm talking about. And vice versa, the same thing with Madrimov. He was very calculative and very patient, the way he said, the way Crawford said. And that's what made the difference. If he was one of those fighters like Pitbull Cruz, that only has one style, one-dimensional, and doesn't have the patience or the discipline to do what Madrimov was doing, then Crawford would have finished him. Because you can't, there's no room for error with Crawford. Terence Crawford is a beast. I don't care what anybody says. And that fighter, Madrimov, is way more skillful than Canelo. He's way more skillful. Canelo doesn't have the footwork. He don't have the footwork that Madrimov had, or a boxer that like Crawford would take advantage of a Canelo. But in that weight class, 168, Canelo's a lot bigger than Crawford. But I truly believe that Crawford still has a great chance to still outbox Canelo and use his boxing, because if he's going to win by decision and just totally outclass Canelo, and he could just beat him on points. But boxing is very corrupt, so you don't know if they're going to give the fight to Canelo, even because he's a bigger name. But I think Crawford is a big name. You saw how much he sold on this fight. If you got the right promoter, like this guy, Turkey, Al-Sheikh, he's great for boxing. He's making big fights happen. He wants to make Shakurstevenson versus what's his name? The fighter that Canelo has. No, the fighter that De La Hoya has. He wants to make that fight with that Mexican guy that everybody's talking about. I like Rajo boxing. Yeah, Rajo did great. Rajo did really good against Pitbull Cruz. He really set him up. He threw the jab. He kept him at bay, and he made Pitbull Cruz look like the one-dimensional fighter that he really is. He's a great puncher. He's very exciting for boxing, but he's a one-trick pony. He just knows how to do one thing and just go forward. It's exciting, but he did better than Tank did. But Tank's excuse is he hurt his hand. This could be true, but I just feel like the boxing is getting better with Turkey Al-Sheikh. He's doing what American promoters are not doing, and I feel like Eddie Hearns is he's a little butthurt because his fighter, Madrimov, lost to Terence Crawford and Ricky Burns, and Crawford beat him, I think, for the title, and he wanted to get revenge with Madrimov, and he couldn't do it. So now he's really butthurt. He's saying that the fight should have went the other way for Madrimov, but he's just being a promoter. There's no way that Madrimov beat Crawford. It was a very close competitive fight, but I still think that Crawford beat him by 2 rounds or 3 rounds. I think Crawford just did enough to win. He couldn't knock him out. Maybe he could have if he would have threw more combinations and hit him to the body more, because every time he hit him to the body, he did a lot of damage. But Jerron Anderson, I just knew that the way he fights, he keeps his chin up too much, and I feel like he takes too many chances, and his chin, I would say his chin is probably decent, but it's not the greatest. I just feel like if you're a boxer, you should be able to bob and weave, move your head more, especially if you're gonna fight a fighter with that kind of power that he fought, Bokimi. I forget his name, but yeah. So I feel like that a fighter with boxing skills has to have more than just moving your legs and throwing combinations. You have to bob and weave as well. Yeah, it was a great night of boxing. Andy Ruiz and Miller. That was a good fight. I think Miller pulled it off. I knew Anderson was going to get killed. I didn't know too much about, what's his name? Kings of Swing. What's the name of the African fighter that knocked out Anderson? Please tell me. Bokimi, he had an exotic name. He had a weird name. Could you give me his name? Could you tell me his name? I just want to get his name right, because he's really good. He knocked him out. He has power, and I think he's made the sweepstakes to fight Usyk. He deserves to fight a Usyk or a Tyson Fury, or even a Joshua, Anthony Joshua. I think it's nah, it's not, man. Just try to look it up online. I appreciate you, man. I think it's Bokimi, something Bokimi. I think it's not Bokoli. No, it's not Bokoli, but I appreciate you trying to give me the name. I think that guy is a problem, man. But we gotta get his name right. Somebody give me his name. He's gonna be a problem for Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Usyk. He's gonna give all those guys problems, man. It's gonna be good. The heavyweight division is exciting. It's exciting. I don't think Berlanga has a chance against Canelo, but I'm hoping that he wins, because Canelo's really picking the easiest fights right now, and I feel like he's trying to make the most money before he retires, and he doesn't want to fight David Benavidez, because he doesn't want to go out like that. And I think like he's asking for $200 million to fight David Benavidez. I think that Turkey Al-Sheikh should put money in a fight with David Benavidez and Canelo, and then they won't avoid it. He won't be able to avoid it. But he wants to put a fight on. You know what it is? He signed Crawford. I think he signed Crawford, and that's the reason why he's making the fight. He's putting the money on it. Martin Bokoli, yeah. Martin Bokoli. Martin Bokoli, yeah. Martin Bokoli is a serious problem. Thank you, Kings of Swin. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to my channel. Martin Bokoli, the heavyweight that knocked out Jerron Anderson. Man. Yeah. Thank you, man. That guy is a problem, man. Like, every punch he threw was with mean and powerful intentions. Every punch, he knew he was going to hurt you. and he knew he was going to get you out of it, because that's the kind of power he had. He punched him out of the ring. He punched Jerron Anderson out of the ring. And I like Jerron Anderson, but there was something missing in his game. I knew that he wasn't moving his head a lot. He was taking too many chances, too prideful. And I feel like sometimes you gotta add more things to your arsenal. It's not just jab, moving your legs, but also bobbing and weaving. Nah, you crazy. Tim, I respect your opinion. There's no way that Crawford lost that fight. Yeah, he has stunning power, that Bokili guy. That Martin Bokoli fight. That Martin Bokoli fighter, the heavyweight, he's gonna be a problem in that division. Yeah, I thought Madrimov barely edged it. Madrimov gave a great account of himself. He was very competitive because, remember, he had 300 fights in the amateurs. And I feel like it was Tim, that was a high-tech fight with skills, like strategy, like outthinking your opponent. It was more of a mental fight than a physical fight, and I appreciate the strategy and intelligent fight, because fight strategies in boxing, because boxing is 90% mental and 10% physical. The one that has the stronger mind a lot of times wins. Not only a stronger mind, you gotta have a chin as well, and you have to have boxing and the power, all that combined. Depending on how you use it, that's how it determines who wins and who doesn't win. But there's a lot of attributes. It was close, yes. I believe that the fight was close with Terence Crawford and the guy Madrimov. I believe it was an entertaining, very intriguing fight, because you don't know what's going to happen. Fights like that, I appreciate them because it's a highly skillful fight. Both that guy Madrimov, he didn't go there just because of his looks. He went there because he deserved to be there. And the promoter truly believed that he had the skill and the pedigree based on his amateur experience with the 300 fights that he has. That does help. And I believe that made the difference as far as the skill. So you got to look at it like that. It was a chess match, but a lot of people just like knockouts. But it was entertaining in my opinion. Yeah, you're right. Most boxing fans, like the casual boxing fans, they like knockouts more. They don't know the sweet science. And there's even boxers that follow boxing, they prefer the knockout more. But if you're really a true student of the game of boxing, you appreciate the boxing skill, the high-tech level of strategy, who's out both fighters thinking in that ring, and the knockout fights as well. But yeah, what sells the most is the knockout fights. That's a fact, Tim. But as a true boxing pundit and fan, I like both aspects of the game. The chess match, but highly skilled chess match where both fighters are established or they're both highly competitive. I like fights like that because you don't know what's gonna happen, and that's how I felt when I saw Terence Crawford fighting Madrimov. I felt like, wow, is Crawford gonna lose? But then I feel as the fight goes on and progresses, I know who's winning the fight based on the jab. Like you see the way Terence Crawford was throwing the jab throughout the fight. He was controlling him with the jab in a sense. And when he threw combinations and when he landed in the body, he did damage because right away, immediately, you saw Madrimov hold and grab as soon as Crawford landed in the body and threw an abundance of combinations. I just feel like if he would have threw an abundance of combinations more repetitively, I truly believe that Crawford would have knocked him out or stopped him because he hurt him. Whenever a fighter grabs you, they're hurt. I feel like Madrimov's footwork was giving Crawford problems, and he was patient as well. Yeah, facts, Tim. Madrimov had a high IQ. He wasn't just a puncher. He wasn't one-dimensional. He can use his legs. He was very good with his footwork, and combinations, timing, patience, and power. He had a combination of everything. The only thing is that I think Crawford just edged him just a little bit because Crawford is a different animal. Like he knows how to time you, but he couldn't time him as much as he timed other fighters because Madrimov wouldn't do exactly what Crawford was expecting him to do. He was basically patient and just didn't go in there like, reckless. He had a plan. So that's what made the fight so intriguing. And I like fights like that. But you can't take away credit from Madrimov. I think his stock went up, but you cannot take credit from Terence Crawford because he beat a fighter that had a high IQ. He was in a different weight class. Then he moved up to 154, and he still beat him. He found a way to beat him. But I feel like if they was to have a rematch, I don't think there was a rematch clause. But if they was to have a rematch, I think Crawford would stop him. If not stop him, dominate him more. That's what I think, based on what I saw. But the Valenzuela fight, Ray Valenzuela, there's a rematch clause with that fight with him and Pitbull Cruz. So I feel like he's gonna probably make a lot of money, fight again, and then probably try to unify the belts, in the 140 weight class. What did you think of the Pitbull and then the Valenzuela? You mean Valenzuela fight? I think it was a really good fight, but I knew what was gonna happen. So it was more like it was more predictable to see what was gonna happen because Valenzuela was using the angles, throwing the jab, keeping Pitbull Cruz at bay and just schooling him, like really outboxing him and outlanding him, making him look foolish, making him look like a one-dimensional pitbull. You know what I mean? But fights like that, they're more like predictable. But the thing that made me be a little concerned for Valenzuela was that his chin, he always keeps it up. Sometimes he don't have a high guard, he don't protect his chin, and his chin is exposed a lot when he's fighting. But since he was fighting at an angle and he was moving away pretty good with his legs and throwing a lot of combinations, he didn't allow Pitbull Cruz to take advantage of the inside or give him or land on him when he has his chin up because he was moving fast enough and outworking him a lot where he didn't give Pitbull Cruz a chance to actually take advantage of that, him exposing his chin like that, Valenzuela. Valenzuela was able to get away with it with Pitbull Cruz, but with the other fighters, he has to step his game up in that area. But I feel like the 140 weight class is not as it's still strong. It's still strong. But I don't know what's gonna happen with Sergio Matias. Of course he's with Eddie Hearn, but I believe that there's a lot of killers there and a lot of good fighters. But as far as let me mention this. Teofimo Lopez is at it again, using racism as an excuse for him not having access. They didn't allow him to have access in that arena because of his credentials. And he was saying that his racism, it comes in many forms. He's the last person to talk about racism because he said bad things about Puerto Ricans and he said bad things about black people, and he should not be contradicting himself like that because he criticized ESPN. He said that they only they only care about they can keep their African American fighters. He said a lot of racist stuff, and I feel like what he said about Puerto Ricans, that he said Puerto Ricans are easy. Because I don't care how Puerto Ricans take it. He's the last person to say anything about racism. Because he says a lot of racist stuff, and I feel like he's just trying to make the most money before he retires. He wants to fight Terence Crawford. He's trying to make it seem him and his father are trying to make it seem like he's getting old, that's why Terence Crawford performed like that. That's not it. He just fought a highly skilled fighter that would give Canelo trouble. That would beat Canelo if he was in that weight class. Like, Canelo doesn't have more boxing pedigree and skills than Madrimov. No way. He has more experience. He has a better resume as far as a professional. But Canelo is more flat-footed, and he's not as skillful as a Madrimov. He's skillful, but he's not as skillful as a Madrimov. I don't think so. I think Madrimov, a fighter like Madrimov would beat Canelo if he was in the same weight class. But yeah, I feel like Teofimo Lopez, he's just trying to make the most money that he can, and he knows that he don't got it anymore because he lost to Kambosos. Ever since he lost to Kambosos, he didn't avenge that loss, and he hasn't been the same mentally. It's like he has like a mental breakdown. I think Canelo's resume is that good. His resume is decent. It's decent for today's times, but a lot of the fighters that he fought, they're not they're not people that, like I'm saying, the best fights that he had, Daniel Jacobs and Gennady Golovkin and Lara. But he really lost to Lara, and I think he lost the first fight with Golovkin, but the second fight I think Canelo won, but it could have went either way. The third fight he waited for Golovkin to get old, so I feel like his resume is decent, but it's not as good as people make it out to be. Today's boxing standards is totally different than back then. He just got a bunch of champion. Okay, Sanders. Yeah, Sanders. What's the other fighter that nobody knew about? There's another fighter that he fought. It's like these are European fighters from overseas that we didn't know about them. They were decent, but they weren't like pound for pounders, if you may. They weren't pound for pounders. So I feel like Canelo has a lot of questionable wins. You know, he did. I say Daniel Jacobs was one of his best victories as far as him really winning. Lara, the fight, I think Lara really won that fight, but they gave it to Canelo. And, you know, they use the excuse that, they don't want to give Lara a rematch because he's boring, he runs. No, he was out boxing. Yeah, he may be boring to some people, but boxing is a sport where you hit and not, not Callum Smith. Yeah, Caleb Plant is decent, but Caleb Plant is a better fighter than Callum Smith and Billy Joe Sanders. That's a better name. But Callum Smith, nobody knew about him that much in the States until Canelo fought. Billy Joe Sanders, he was a decent fighter, but he wasn't a pound for pound fighter. He wasn't in elite status as far as pound for pound. Like, we knew that Canelo was going to beat him. Caleb Plant, that was a legitimate victory for Canelo. That was a good victory. Caleb Plant is a skillful fighter, and I always thought highly of Caleb Plant. He's still skillful, but he doesn't hit hard, and it's easy to like not respect him and go forward. But he does have a good boxing pedigree. So I say Callum Smith was not really anybody special. He was just a champion on paper that it looked good on paper, but he was not established. Like, you know, like the way a Mayweather or somebody in that status, like David Benavidez. David Benavidez, he fought Caleb Plant. That gives him some credibility, and he was a champion before, and okay, he may not have fought the level of opposition that I say Canelo, but it's not. But he did, because he fought Andrade. Even though Andrade moved up in weight to fight Caleb Plant, Andrade was avoided by Canelo. Andrade still has some boxing pedigree, so he has a say. He has a say to get a fight with Canelo, because he's been the #1 contender for 2 years, and Canelo has avoided that fight. And I just believe that David Benavidez, he made a statement when he knocked out Andrade and when he beat Caleb Plant. I believe that he made a statement, and I feel like Canelo has avoided it because he doesn't want to be a come-up for somebody. He doesn't want to be somebody's come-up, and he doesn't want to lose. He knows that a fight with David Benavidez is a fight where he's going to get embarrassed, because David Benavidez could really seriously hurt Canelo. And if Canelo waits any longer to fight him, he could be in a wheelchair. I'm just saying, at 168. At 175, David Benavidez doesn't have the same pop, because he's physically big for 168. So I feel like that's an advantage for him. And I feel like that'll be a good fight. Canelo's physically big too, as far as weight, not size, but weight. So I believe that they should make that fight, but I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. But if it does, it's good for boxing. But my time is up. But I believe that these fights are the kind of fights that we need, and I think we're gonna get more better fights. Does anybody know the name of the boxer that Turkey Al-Sheikh wants Shakurstevenson to fight? It's De La Hoya's boxer that everybody's talking about. He's undefeated, and they want Shakurstevenson to fight him. I forget his name. Does anybody know his name? That fighter, they're going to make a fight with Oscar De La Hoya's fighter. He's in the 135 weight class. And Turkey Al-Sheikh said he's gonna make that fight. Somebody give me that name. Give me that name. I'm gonna have to look it up after I drop this video. But yeah, I think Shakurstevenson is gonna get the big fights that he needs. But he's gonna start off with Oscar De La Hoya's fighter, most likely, because they're gonna, Turkey Al-Sheikh is gonna put the money to make the fight. So I believe that Tank Davis fight, hopefully it gets made. Hopefully it does, but Tank Davis doesn't want to work with Turkey Al-Sheikh or Saudi Arabia. I don't know what he's on, but maybe he wants to avoid certain fighters. Maybe he doesn't want to take all that money. He can make money somewhere else. I don't know. I just feel like they should make the fights happen. But yeah, tune in to Tony Also Knows Boxing. Check out my music on Spotify, Pandora, Tony Also, The Prodigy of Alviso Campos, The Monumental Truth. Check out Unite the Tribe. I sing R&B and I rap. I do a little bit of everything, and I also cook too. I cook alcapurrias as well. And I do music, and I want everybody to keep subscribing to the channel. I got more content coming. I hope you enjoyed the boxing fights. I'll be back for more information. Keeping it real. Tony Also. Yes, check out my music as well on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Yeah, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the love. One love, everybody. And to all the channels out there doing their thing, one love, man. One love. Tony Also. Subscribe.